What's going on, beautiful people? Thank you for tuning in and watching and listening to my bullshit. I appreciate your appreciation of my videos and rants, and I love every single one of you guys. And in this video, I'm gonna talk about why it's more important for men to do psychedelics, to trip, than it is for women. Not to say that women shouldn't. I actually think psychedelics should be for everybody, you know, and we all need them in the society, of course, in supervised manner and all of that, and responsibly, right? The responsible use. So I think they're for mostly for everyone, like men, women. We live in an egotistical world. We need something to give us a sense of connection and a sense of unity with each other, and the psychedelic just brings it to you in a matter of 45 minutes. That's it. Boom. Kicks in you, and suddenly your ego, you become to experience ego dissolution. So I'm not saying women shouldn't fucking trip. I'm saying no, it's good for everybody living in this modern world, but I'm saying it's more important for men to do psychedelics than it is for women. And let me explain myself here. In this universe that we live in, there's the yin and the yang. There's duality. There's the female and the male. There is the masculine and the feminine. And you can see this in absolutely everything. You can see it in the Big Bang. The way this universe, this video game was simulated was through a Big Bang, which is a masculine act. The masculine asserts itself. It's looking to control. It's looking for structure. It's looking to explode. So the way this universe was created, Big Bang, right? Masculine act. And then the way it evolved for the next 14 billion years is in a feminine act, which is just surrender, evolve, take your time, receive, and just be, right? This is the universe we live in. This is the yin and the yang. This is duality. This is the nature of this video game that we're in, of this simulation that we're living in right now. Same thing is when you create a baby, right? I mean, the act of creating a baby is the man, which is the masculine embodiment of the universe, explodes inside a woman, which is the feminine manifestation of the universe in the form of human, explodes in a masculine act in the woman, right? And then the woman receives that explosion, that masculine explosion, and then a baby for the next 9 months. A baby develops in a very feminine way, right? Just letting go, being, evolving, surrendering. It just happens. The subconscious. The subconscious is feminine, right? What's going on in those 9 months is the baby is growing very subconsciously. Like the woman is not consciously trying to control growing the baby. It just happens. That's feminine, right? So, as humans right now, take me as an example. I am a man, so that makes me a masculine, more of a masculine conduit for the universe, more of a masculine expression of the universe. Now, every single one of us has both male and female, the anima and the animus. We both have it. It's just a man has a tendency for masculine behavior, for masculine manifestation of the universe, for masculine qualities, right? And then a female is the feminine manifestation of the universe. So then the female has more of a tendency for feminine activities and feminine behavior and feminine qualities, right? And that's beautiful, right? That's the universe having a feminine and a masculine expression of itself. Okay, that's beautiful. Now, as the feminine expression of the universe, as a human female, you are biologically designed to give birth to a baby. So you're biologically designed. Nature has designed you to look after someone other than yourself. That's just in your biology. And I mean, you know, that's just in your biology, right? And that's a blessing. That's a blessing. You're wired to give birth, to nurture a baby for 9 months. And once you give birth to that baby, milk start coming out of your titties, because that's just nature has designed you to give birth. You're a giver. You're a giver. Women are givers, right? To give birth, to give nourishment to another human being that popped out of your vagina, right? Now that makes the female naturally more in tune with the frequency of love, with the frequency of giving, with the frequency of oneness, with the frequency of sacrifice, with the frequency of love. That's what it is, love, right? Women are nurturers. They're biologically designed to nurture. So then that act of giving birth, and not even if you're a young woman that's not pregnant, nothing like that, you're still wired like that. So that's why women are tuned with love, right? Women are sweet. Women are beautiful, sweet creatures, because just nature has designed the female body to be that way, the female organism to be that way. And you know, a mother's love for her babies, a mama bear's love for her cubs, it's maybe the closest thing we're gonna have for God's love to all of us. So, you know, that tells you something. That tells you that, okay, you know what? It's much easier for a woman to transcend her own ego, because that's the way she's biologically wired, than it is for a man. We don't give birth to someone else, okay? We don't have to think about the consequences of birth. We don't have to, I mean, the only thing we really give birth to is a big, giant fucking shit, okay? That's the only thing we're gonna ever give birth to, okay? And maybe that's why, you know, men have a tendency to, if they have a big shit, like they feel like you're proud of it, right? Because I mean, that's the only thing we're ever gonna give birth to is a big shit. I think they made a thing about it in South Park, right? Where Randy, he takes a big shit and then he looks at it, he's proud, and they start to have a contest who's gonna have the biggest shit in the universe, or the biggest shit in South Park, I mean. So that was a funny episode. But yeah, I mean, that's the only thing we're ever gonna give birth to. We don't really give birth to another human being, right? We're not wired that way as men. So because we're not as wired as women to this frequency of giving, to this frequency of love, which is, believe me, a higher frequency, the male ego is much more likely to develop in a negative way, in a shadow way, in a destructive way. And I think egotistical behavior in men is more apparent than it is in women. And that's because we're not wired that way. We're not wired to give. We're not wired to nurture. And we're wired to go out there. We're wired to hunt, to assert ourselves, right? To try and control and find structure. Now, mind you, everybody has male and female in them, and we seek to balance both in every single one of us, right? Nevertheless, this is your ego. This is your character. You're given this character, and it has certain tendencies. The best way for you to navigate through this character is to say what is going on here. I'm gonna tune it in. For example, I myself, speaking of me personally, I have high masculine energy. Okay, I have high masculine energy, so I know this. I mean, look at the way I make videos. It's very high energy, and the way I speak is very assertive. It's very confident. And this is why I go to the gym. This is why I do martial arts. This is why I do a lot of masculine things, because this is just the way I am naturally tuned. This is my body. This is my DNA. But I recognize something. I recognize that my ego is twice as likely as a woman's to wander around in a negative way. Ego, look, let's explain the ego a little bit here. It's very important to understand what the ego is. The ego is your character. The ego is what's going on here. this is my ego. Saeed is my ego. Part of my ego is this hair. It's my name. It's my occupation. I'm a YouTuber, right? It's all part of my ego. It's separation, which is needed to experience this video game. Without separation, we can't experience this video game. Meaning, if you want to kill your ego, you either go do 5 grams of mushrooms, and then you experience ego death for 4 to 6 hours. Or, and I'm not saying this, please don't, you fucking kill yourself, right? I mean, nobody should do that because life is beautiful, it's wonderful, and we're here for a purpose, we're here for a reason, right? But I'm saying, that's if you want to kill your ego, right? Just go, you know, that's it. That's when you die is when you kill your ego. That's when you die physically. But you can die psychologically by taking 5 grams of mushrooms in silent darkness, and you'll experience that. So when you experience in that ego dissolution state is you feel like oneness and love and all of these beautiful, wonderful things, which women are more in tune with naturally than men. You see, because a man, we're not wired to give birth, we're not wired to give, to nurture in the same way a woman is. Our ego, our egotistical behavior, which is basically just you seeing yourself as separate from others, it's twice as likely to develop in a negative way, maybe even more than twice as likely, maybe 4 times as likely. And so you see, this is why you see like men competing a lot with each other, and not that it's all bad, you know. I'll tell you something, I would have loved to be a fucking football player, man, compete with all these fucking other men. Competition is healthy, right? Competition is healthy. As long as we understand, respect, discipline, and just respecting other people. But this is why I think it's more important for men to trip. Because we have this ego thing. You guys know, most of you guys watching this are men, right? You guys know, man, we can get in our heads too much and you want to try and fucking prove yourself. We have a lot to prove. A man has a lot to prove, right? Oh, look at me, you know, I'm making this much money. It's a dick measuring contest it becomes, right? When you trip, you realize all the masks you've been putting on, all this fucking male ego bullshit act. You're trying to prove yourself and trying to shit on other men and trying to establish dominance and control. You realize it's all bullshit. Tripping, you know, getting high on psychedelics dissolves your ego. And men need it more than women. Believe me, men need it more than women. Now you guys know it has to do with giving birth. Now, I listened to some of Terence McKenna's, I came up with this on my own. And then I listened to Terence McKenna, and Terence McKenna said the exact same thing I'm saying here. And it kind of gave me encouragement to share this with you guys. Because, look, the world we created right now is very egotistical. It's all about separation, separation, separation. I mean, the existence of a city separate from nature, that's a product of the ego, by the way. That's a product of the human ego as a whole, the collective human ego as a whole, saying, oh, we're humans, so we're different than animals, we're different than trees, we're different than this, let's create these cities. See, the ego, it manifests itself differently. Like there's the human ego, right? And then there's the male ego. And then it's sort of, it's separation, right? What we try to do when we come into this earth is to try as much as we can in this video game to dissolve that separation. To see the oneness and the love in all beings, and seeing that we're all made of the same thing. We're all one consciousness experiencing itself subjectively. And as a man who's not going to give birth, right? As a man who is not wired to nurture and wired to give his life for something else, for someone else. See, this is why we're so attracted to stories that have heroes that give their lives to a purpose greater than themselves. See, as long as you're giving. See, what the psychedelics do, the psychedelics tripping, you realize you're far greater than what you think you are. This male ego thing, I am this person, I make this much money, I drive this car, blah, blah. It makes you realize you gotta give yourself for something greater than you. Everything has a purpose, you have a purpose. You play, you're a part of a game that's far greater than you. And you gotta give yourself. You know, you gotta give. That's what it is, right? And so you find your purpose, because we men, we're more purpose oriented. And now you give yourself to the world. You give your inspiration, you give your love, you give your gift to the world. See? Now we're talking. It's when what we try to do here, when we come here, you know, as souls experiencing, having this human experience, we want to get closer to love. We're trying to evolve our consciousness to love. As a woman, it's easier. It's easier because you are love. I mean, come on, you're wired to nurture a baby, to love a baby, right? So sooner or later, as a woman, you'll have that ego dissolution experience of giving birth, whether sooner or later, right? Or you're wired for it. If you choose not to have babies, if you choose not to give birth, you're still wired for it biologically. Us men, I think it's pretty crucial for us to take psychedelics. But I also think nowadays in the modern world, it's just as crucial for women, because we live in this ego worship type of world, right? Instagram models, you know, everybody's like me, right? It's all about me, trying to show the world how cool I am, how amazing I am, right? Which is okay, but it's gotta be balanced, and it's gotta come with the understanding that you're also part of something like greater than yourself. And that's when you're gonna find true happiness and true well-being, is when you have a purpose and you do something that is not just for you, but for something greater than you, right? So I think that's about it. This video was all over the place, but the moral of it, the conclusion of it, why I am making this argument that it's more important for a man to do psychedelics than for a woman, not to say that women shouldn't. I think in this modern world we all should, but I think it's more important for a man because we're now wired to give birth. We're now wired to give children, and we're now wired to give our lives and give ourselves for something other than us, like a woman does when she gives birth. And even if she doesn't give birth, again, she's wired to give birth, so she's wired for that frequency of love, more connected to it. For us men to connect to that frequency of love, that frequency of oneness, that frequency of giving, we find a purpose, and a man who finds his purpose, that's it. Your purpose is greater than you, then you're on the right track. And maybe for us, a little bit of psychedelics won't hurt, okay? That's it. God bless you all. Big messy rant, but maybe you get something out of it. I love you guys. I love every single one of you, but don't forget to subscribe or you're gonna sleep with the fishes.